Hello. I thought I would talk about intuition and defining the cards and understanding card meanings and how I think they work well with intuition and what is intuition, really. So, understanding the intuition the way I see it or how it's worked for me might help you too. And also helps the way I do it, the way it works for me, works very well with the way I define the cards. So to me, intuition is like I know people who can be um, intuitive at will, or at least that's what they're saying. And I would imagine they're out there. I know as far as astral projection goes, I know that that's a fact, which is not really intuition. That's something else. But astral projection, out of body experience, I do know people who can, at will, leave their body consciously. I can't do that. I do astral project, but with me, it's more, if it's happening, I know it's happening. I can't will it. I can't say, I'm going to project tonight when I go to bed. Edgar Casey was somebody who could astral project. They called him the sleeping prophet. He would go into a state where basically he was going out of body. Shamans do that. So, but I do know people who can do that. Most people, I think, it's just if they don't know, they can't control it. But if it's happening, if you're familiar with it, you'll know what's happening. I think a lot of people with very common situations with intuition, it's the same way. You can't really control it and will it to be, but you can set up situations where you're welcoming it to come to you. And I think that's what we're doing with a card reading. To me, intuition's like fishing. If you're a professional fisherman, you know locations, you know time of day, you know the type of lures you want to use and things like this. All these things that give you the best advantage to be successful at attracting fish to come to you. And I think that's what we're doing when we try to be intuitive. We set a situation up and we welcome it to come to us by the application we're using. So if you want to have things like candles and incense and things like this, if this helps you, that's great. Whatever seems to help you. Or you could just really pay attention to see if it's coming to you. So some days the fish don't bite, no matter what you're doing. And other days you can get a lot of activity. Same with intuition. To me, I think keywords really help a lot. Keywords with the tarot cards, as far as meaning goes, I think they help your intuition to come out more than they have a direct, definite meaning for a card. Keywords allow a wide range of meaning to come to you. And intuitively, certain aspects of that keyword's meaning are going to fit well with this particular reading and the other cards around it. And another key, and then maybe a different meaning to that keyword in another reading will be shifted in some way because you're seeing it just a little differently. And that's why I think intuition really is wide open with that, as far as your the keywords really allow you to really keep it loose and open to get intuitive about it. I'll give you an example. I use keywords. I also want to say that as far as tarot cards, when you read a lot of books about tarot cards and their meanings, I think basically what you do is you read all this about a specific card from all these different sources. And basically what you're doing in your mind anyway, and you're saying, well, I've read all this information. Basically, this card means, and it'll be a keyword. So you do that to yourself anyway. So what I've given as keywords that I think would be agreeable to most other sources out there on basically what the card means. And seeing I don't use the suits as a primary part of the meaning, you could take, I say all four fours, let's say, on the minor arcana, 4 cups, 4 wands, 4 pentacles, 4 swords. They're all fours. That's all I care about right now. So fours, to me, I have a keyword of stability. Fours represent stability. So if it's stability, well, stability, you can look at it and say, well, that's a good thing. You could also look at it and say, maybe you're stuck in a rut. Maybe you can't get out of it. Maybe you're trying to make some changes. And all you have is a stability around you. So that's intuitive. You don't know how to interpret stability in this reading until you look at it intuitively. And all the maybe the other cards around it. Also, with the question you're looking into, maybe the person is telling you, I'm in a rut. I can't get out of something. I'm trying to make some changes. I can't. And that stability card comes up. 4 swords, let's say. And you can see, okay, yeah, I can see that. But it's not always going to be that clear. So to be able to have keywords, now you're allowed to see you need to develop stability, or you need to break away from this stability. Or what you have going for you is things are predictable, they're very stable, they're very routine. There's a lot of ways you could take the word stability and translate it into something useful for the reading. And I think that's where your intuition comes in. So keywords really allow intuition to come into play a lot easier than a definite, direct meaning of things. And if you look at something like a dictionary, and there it's almost like reversed. You take a word and you look for a definition of that word. And what they're doing is they're giving you keywords that represent that word. So basically that's what we're doing, is using keywords ultimately anyway to understand the meaning of a card. And keywords work very well for an intuitive insight to be welcome to your reading. I think intuition is something that's hard to put hard to zero in on as far as what is it or how it works. We don't know much about it. Most of us realize that it's there, or we've had some experiences with it, but we don't really know why it's there or how it works. But we do know that the application of a tarot reading really allows us to tap into that part of the mind. And that's why I think the tarot is so effective, is the application opens up intuition. If you're, as far as, so the more you use that part of the mind, we don't use that side of the mind that much in our everyday life. Where if you're involved with other people, it's hard to be intuitive. Always in a group, like a workplace. So it's nice to have some alone time, solitude, to be able to get in here instead of out here. The more you can get in here and get in touch with that side, the easier it is going to be to use it So just like other parts of the body, like a muscle, the more you use it, the better it's going to get. And if you're in a position where you're always constantly around a lot of people in your home and at work, and you don't have time to really be alone, I would say try to set up a place in the home or somewhere where you can have that space to yourself and just sit and think. Maybe have some music, light some incense, whatever you got to do. Just your own little solitude area. And I think that'll help you. That, along with, as far as reading tarot cards, like I say, using keywords for meanings really helps you use that intuitive side. Makes it easier to tap into that. And what's nice about being a reader is that as you read and you do find intuition coming to you, you're saying it to your client, and your client's going to automatically confirm it. So now you have a feeling that seems intuitive. You mention it to the client in the reading, and the client confirms what you're saying. This is a direct way of letting you know that that wasn't just your imagination. It was real. So if you want to develop your psychic awareness, reading tarot cards is really a good way to do it. So as you read tarot cards, you are going to become more sensitive psychically. Your intuitive side will be there. And it might come up in other ways too. Clairvoyance, astral projection. These things will come to you. And they weren't there before because you're using that part of the mind more now. So the tarot does do that. It does help that side, that help to develop that in you. And back to what we were talking about with images of the cards in one of the other lessons. If you have a specific image on a card, instead of you're not using a Marseille deck, and you're using a deck with images on it, like a Rider-Waite or any of the other newer decks today, what you have as far as an image goes is some artist decided to take the meaning, let's say stability, and they depicted some idea of what that stability should look like for that card. But you could only have one image on there. So you could have a nice stability, or you could have one that's a stuck routine that you don't want to be in. They're both could be possibly be what you're seeing in the reading, but the image on the card could only show one aspect. And that's why it's important to just take the images to a certain level as far as their meaning. And remember that it could be other ways to see that card too. A good way to develop your intuition is to naturally, besides reading tarot cards, that's one way, will help your intuition develop. Another way is to pay attention to your dreams, because your dreams can be a very good way to tap into that intuitive side of your mind too. And anything goes in a dream. And when you wake up and you're thinking about the dream, a lot of it doesn't make any sense. But in the dream, it made a lot of sense. That's because you're using a side that doesn't have the logic in it. You're using an intuitive side, the right side of the brain, and the very creative and intuitive part of the mind. And you don't have to analyze dreams. But if you recognize them, just pay attention to them. It's almost like you're telling your your psychic side, I'm willing to listen if you got something to say. And if you analyze the dream, if you look at the dream and just try to, after you wake up, maybe document it some way in a diary or a journal, a little bit about it. Think about it in the morning, and just recognize it. You don't have to interpret it. Just recognize it. And say that was nice. That was a nice experience, or it was an interesting experience. The more you listen to that side, the more it'll start talking to you. And pretty soon it'll be talking to you during your waking hours too. And that could happen. So pay attention to your dreams. And you can get to a point where if you tell yourself at night, a lot of people say, I don't remember my dreams. If you tell yourself at night, I'm going to remember my dreams, you watch, you will start to remember your dreams. Might just be one. You dream about every hour and 15 minutes, but you will start to recall more in your waking state about a dream you had. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to remember my dreams, you can get to a point where you could record. I could record up to 5 dreams in a night by doing that. And that's not uncommon. And you just write down some keywords about it. You wake up after your dream, you write down some keywords, have a journal by the bed. Tell yourself, I'm going to remember my dreams. And then let's say you wake up, it's midnight. And you wake up, you just had a dream. You write down in your journal some keywords about the dream, just some small stuff that you can remember will trigger the dream in your waking hours in the morning. And the time, write down the time and the date of the dream and the year, because that journal might last for years. And then in the morning when you're having your coffee or whatever, look at that journal and try to see what you wrote and try to recall that dream you had. The more you can remember the dreams that you had in your sleep, in your waking hours, the more your dreams, the more that side of your mind will become active during your waking hours too. But you could find yourself having a dream at midnight. Like I said, the dreams happen about an hour, every hour and 15 minutes. You go through that REM cycle. You have a dream at midnight, 12 o'clock. And then you have another dream and you wake up, it's 2:30. And you had another dream. And you write that down, you look at the time, 2:30. Well, you know you missed your 1:15 dream. You had one there, but you didn't get it. You didn't remember it. You had one. But you'll start to see that cycle every hour and 15 minutes. Might be an hour and a half. I'm not too sure. I think it's an hour and 15 minutes with me anyway. And you'll start to see that. And you'll know. I had a dream at 1:15, but I don't remember. This will help your readings. And your readings help your psychic awareness. And I really do believe keywords, as far as using keywords for meanings of the cards, help spark your psychic awareness in your readings. And I also think they give you more range in the readings themselves, because you can see beyond the image of the card with a keyword. Saying, yeah, okay, the image of the card is showing one aspect of stability for the force, let's say. but there are other types of stability than what this card is showing. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. This image happens to be showing one that doesn't look too good, or one that looks wonderful, even though what we're looking into is very challenging. So that could help your application with tarot cards. Another thing I'd like to bring up also is I've had people say this, well, you see, my readings seem to be optimistic. And I like to keep my readings that way. To me, I say that failure is not an option. I'm not looking at failure. I'm not interested in failure. And no matter what the struggle happens to be, or the challenge happens to be, I'm going to be looking for the best way this person can go through this for the best chance they have at success. I might tell them it's going to be tough, but your best chance is to do this. Maybe they only got a 1% chance of doing something. So it's going to be tough, but here's the best thing I see you can do. And I think that that's a good way to do it. Don't give up. There's a song called The Living Years, and one of the verses in there is, don't give up, don't give in, and you just might be okay. And I like to use that attitude, that I use that verse to explain to people that no matter what the situation is, we're not looking at what is going to your failure here. We're looking at whatever you can do to try to overcome it. I think that's more helpful in a reading anyway. Instead of doom, this is not going to ever work. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm always looking at what is the best possible chance you have to make this happen. So you don't want your clients giving up on something, ever. So learn keywords for the meanings. And if you want to develop your psychic awareness, just read the cards out. Just read them by yourself. Pretend you're reading somebody. Pretend you're reading somebody. It could be a coworker. Throw a spread out for them. Maybe your coworker is going through something right now. Pretend that they're asking you a question about this issue. You know the issue because you work with the person. Pretend you were doing a reading for them, and do it. Another good thing you could do with readings to develop your getting familiar with the cards is read the past. We're always paid to read the future, but you could read any time in history, any time. You want to read the present or the past? You went through something in your life in the past, do a reading about it. Throw the cards down and look at those cards until you see exactly what that was. And you'll see it. Or maybe something you're going through right now. Just to see a time in space and time, a time in history, or whatever you want to call it, a specific time frame in your life. Doesn't have to be the future. If you could read the past and you could read the present, you could read the future. So read the past. Practice reading the past. Practice reading the present. It'll help familiarize you on interpreting and seeing the cards. Because if you're reading the past, you already know what happened. Now you got to see it in those cards. How can I see this card is representing this that I know already happened? You keep looking at that card, you'll find ways to do it. You'll find ways to see that card representing something about that past experience. And that's how you interpret the cards. Another thing you can practice is reading fluently. Reading fluently is as you're throwing cards over, you're speaking what you're seeing about the card. And you don't stop, you just keep talking as you're throwing the cards down. This is a good exercise for developing your technique with the cards and your ability with the cards. And it's very impressive when you're doing that type of a reading for a client. Lots of times that what I'll do is I'll do that as I'm throwing the cards over, and then I'll go into it in more detail. But as I'm laying the cards down, I'm seeing something, and I'm talking about it as I'm seeing it, as I'm talking. What this card means, how this card relates to it, how this card relates to it, and I'm just talking as I'm throwing them down. Then I go into it in detail with the reading. There's some ideas to help develop things, including your intuition. And I hope you like this. Keep throwing cards. We'll talk soon.